Tim Burton's Batman is my second favorite film of all time. While nostalgia certainly plays a factor, I legitimately think it's a great film, and a far less shallow one than people like to portray it as. I feel like over the years people have gained respect, but lost love for this film, and although I don't feel the same way, I understand why. This movie started Batmania and can be held solely responsible for 89% of the great Batman media we enjoy today. So people will always respect what it meant for the character as well as the medium of comics as a whole. But now that this film is reaching close to its 40th anniversary and we now have a lot more accurate adaptations that took a more realistic approach. This film, on a critical level, is just looked at as there. It's not the dumpster fire that is Batman and Robin, but it's not the masterpiece The Dark Knight is either. Right? Wrong. I think this film is far better than people give it credit for, and its main theme encapsulated one of the most interesting aspects of the character, which is simply duality. It's such a core part of the character that it is often mirrored in his rogues gallery, Two-Face being the most obvious example, but other notable ones include Black Mask, Catwoman, and the one and only Joker himself. Jack Nicholson's portrayal of the Joker is often regarded as just another Nicholson performance, and I'm not even disagreeing. But that's the point. Jack's personality almost completely falls in line with the comic Joker. Tim Burton always makes movies about outcasts and weirdos who would be regarded as freaks by society at large, and in Batman, we see two distinct freaks who, while mortal enemies and people who seem very different from one another on the surface, share a lot in common, which again mirrors the comics. While this film does pour more attention towards its style and aesthetics, it doesn't lack narrative substance, and that is really what I want to tackle today. So without further ado, this is why Batman '89 is a good film, and also a good Batman film. Plot summary. The film opens on an ordinary Warner Brothers logo, but then the clouds become darker and shadowed, and the first thing you hear is the beginning of the iconic Batman theme. When you're only a mere 10 seconds into this movie, you can't help but get hyped by Danny Elfman's score, which in my opinion is his best score to date. I've yet to hear a track as epic and perfect as Descent into Mystery, but we'll get there. Jack infamously takes first billing over Keaton in this opening credit sequence, which sees us surfing around a cave-like structure that is ultimately revealed to be the Bat symbol, which they obtained the rights to weeks prior. Then we get an establishing shot of the best Gotham City put to film. We then witness a bait-and-switch scenario where we see a family that we comic fans initially think to be the Waynes get mugged. However, we then see Batman first revealed in his odd Burton signature B-movie effect, letting us know that this is the present. As the thugs count the money, they argue over a fellow thug, Johnny Gallup's fate, with one of them claiming that the Bat got him. The two are then ambushed by the Bat they speak of, to which they react by shooting the fire out of it. As the two turn around within seconds, they hear Batman arise. He knocks one of the thugs out with a kick before dangling the other one off a roof, assuring him that he's not going to kill him because he needs him to spread the word that the Batman is real. Then we get one of the most famous lines in cinema.
I'm Batman.
After this, we see a televised broadcast where District Attorney Harvey Dent says he will root out crime and corruption. Jack Napier, a gangster, is seen watching the broadcast in the company of Alicia, who is the boss Carl Grisham's woman. Jack is overconfident in everything, including the affair, stating that he's positive he doesn't know, and when Alicia tries to assure him he looks fine, he retorts, "I didn't ask." He is shown to have a lucky deck of cards, so maybe there's some deep-rooted psychological reason behind it to explain why he's so cocky. The thugs Batman took out are wheeled into an ambulance as we see Police Lieutenant Eckhart brush off the claims of a giant bat until reporter Alexander Knox arrives on the scene, saying this is the 8th sighting this month. After dismissing Knox's claims, Eckhart slips into an alley where he mates up with Jack, who pays him a bribe and notifies him of Harvey Dent sniffing around one of Grisham's front companies. He states that he's in charge of looking after his illegal front companies, that he'll deal with the problems, and he answers to Grissom alone. Jack tells him to think about the future, insinuating that he'll lead the mob one day, to which Eckhart says he has no future due to his instability. At the Gotham Globe, Knox is mocked for his bat beliefs by everyone except Vicky Vale, a photojournalist visiting Gotham specifically to get a story on the Batman. Grissom finds out about Jack's affair and sets him up by sending him to Axis Chemicals to acquire some confidential records, when, in actuality, what's waiting for him is a police sting. I like how the score when Grissom watches Jack leave sounds like hissing, because Grissom is being a snake. At the benefit, Vicky looks around for Bruce Wayne and eventually stumbles into him. However, he lies about it. But he didn't really lie, because he sees himself as Batman. The police receive an anonymous tip about Napier at the benefit, and Alfred notifies Bruce. Bruce confirms the location by reviewing the security footage. At Axis Chemicals, after realizing he's been set up, Jack starts axing several volatile pipes and consoles before killing Eckhart. He takes a shot at Batman, which backfires when Batman deflects it into his face using his gauntlet. Jack falls over a railing and Batman tries to pull him up, but ultimately he loses his grip and drops him into a chemical vat. Vicky lands a date with Bruce, and they even end up sleeping together. However, she knows something's up when he says he's going out of town for a little while, and then Alfred tells her they aren't going anywhere. Meanwhile, Jack finds his way to the shore and gets a back alley surgeon to reconstruct his face, only to laugh when looking in a mirror. Jack confronts Grissom in his penthouse, where he reveals his new face and identity, calling himself Joker. He shoots Grissom to death and then reads up on the man he encountered at the plant. Joker arranges a meeting with Grissom's associates, where he says he is now in charge. After they refuse to work with him, he has all of them killed and takes over their operations. After feeling slighted, Vicky does what any sane woman does and stalks Bruce, noticing that he had laid roses on the ground outside the Monarch Theater. They both make it to City Hall, where one of the gangsters claims Grissom signed over all of his businesses for the time being. Joker arrives and kills him with a feather pen before a troop of mimes shoot up the place. Bruce, now dazed by the fact that Jack is still alive, doesn't react when Vicky tries to talk to him. Joker reviews the photos his number one guy, Bob, took at City Hall, and upon stumbling upon a picture of Vicky, he decides he needs a new woman. Joker reveals that he has poisoned all cosmetic products when he hijacks a news broadcast in which one of the reporters, named Becky, dies from the chemicals in his Smilex formula, which leaves a disturbing grin on the victim's corpse. Bruce analyzes the products and deduces that certain products are poisoned when combined, but in isolation are safe. Alfred tells Bruce that Vicky will be late for their date at the museum, to which Bruce responds that he didn't plan one. Realizing it's a trap, he suits up and heads to the museum. Vicky is given a box by a waiter that contains a gas mask, and upon seeing gas, puts it on. Once it clears, Joker barges in with his goons and begins vandalizing all the paintings. He tells Vicky that he is the world's first fully functioning homicidal artist. He asks her what she knows about Batman, and after she tells him she knows nothing, he suggests they get together. Batman crashes through the glass ceiling and rescues Vicky. He leads her to the Batmobile, in which he drives until he's met with an obstacle. They get out of the car and run into an alley where Batman, with the help of Vicky's camera flashes, defeats all the thugs. After calling in the Batmobile, he takes her to the Batcave, where he tells her to take the info about Smilex to the press. He then puts her to sleep and retrieves the picture she took of him. The following day, Bruce pays her a visit at her apartment to explain everything, but before he can get the courage, Joker shows up, and in order to save Vicky, Bruce starts acting nuts before Jack mutters a phrase that catches his attention. Joker shoots him, and then it is revealed that he had a steel pan in his suit for armor. Knox informs Vale that Bruce's parents were shot and killed in the alley where he stopped to place roses on the ground. While watching Joker announce he's giving away $20 million at the Gotham 20th Anniversary Festival, Bruce realizes that Jack killed his parents, and that's why the phrase sounded so familiar. Alfred allows Vicky into the Batcave, where she asks him why he has to do this, to which he says nobody else can. Batman goes to Axis Chemicals and blows it sky high before seeing Joker on his way to the festival via helicopter. Joker starts to throw cash to the crowd before putting on a gas mask and revealing that his balloons contain Smiley's gas. Batman arrives on the scene in a plane which is equipped with a winch he uses to snatch the balloons and send them to space. His plane is shot down by Joker, who then intercepts Vicky as she attempts to check on Batman. The two begin heading to the top of Gotham Cathedral with Bruce in close pursuit. Once at the top, Batman fights off the goons before ambushing Joker. He tells him that he is going to kill him for killing his parents. He then knocks him over the ledge and peers over to see if he is dead. At which point, Joker grabs him in Vale, then reveals himself on a platform. Joker attempts to flee by grabbing the ladder attached to his chopper, but Batman grapples his ankle to a heavy gargoyle while simultaneously hanging on for dear life. The weight of the gargoyle causes Joker to fall to his death. Batman and Vale fall, but Batman is able to grapple in midair, which causes them to dangle in the air safely. At City Hall, the GCPD announces that they have formed an alliance with Batman and that they have the bat signal to contact him. The look of Batman 89. This film's visuals are the story. A lot of people who criticize this film often zero in on the fact that Batman isn't the main character in his own movie and his motivations are kept secret from the audience. I'll address this more in depth in the story section of this video, but I'll tell you now that I feel like such statements miss the point. Every establishing shot of Gotham City tells you all you need to know. When looking at this city, you can immediately fill in the gaps of how Bruce Wayne lost his mind and started dressing up as a bat. In Sam Hamm's script, Gotham is described as if hell erupted through the pavement. This film won an Academy Award for Best Art Direction, and it earned it. Anton Furst was the production designer on films like The Company of Wolves, High Spirits, and Full Metal Jacket before this film. Unfortunately, Anton died in 1991. Rest in peace. Bo Welsh was the production designer on Batman Returns, and while he did a great job in his own right, I think the first Burton Gotham is the best one ever put to film. This film also had two great art directors, the first being Nigel Phelps, known as First Draftsman, who drew concept art for Gotham, and Terry Ackland Snow, who helped design the Batmobile. Bob Ringwood did an excellent job with costume design by really bringing the source material to life, as well as capturing the historical dress of the past. Nick Dudman and Peter Robb King also killed it with the makeup, most notably with the Joker, of course. Lastly, I want to shout out Derek Meddings, the special effects supervisor, who oversaw the animation and miniatures. Shout out to the whole art department for making this beautiful looking film. The great thing about this film is how it isn't set in any specific time and it is implied to be an alternate version of our present world. There are several intentional continuity errors throughout. For example, when we see the newspaper headline about the poison code on the left, it reads, "Universal Service urged by Truman in Princeton Talk," which is a real headline from June 1947, referencing Harry S. Truman, who was the president at the time. Despite this, we see the CIA files Joker got his hands on state that the nerve gas was discontinued in 1977. And this is one of many examples. But the point is, this film has the freedom of being otherworldly, which is aided by its combination of aesthetics from different time periods. What's interesting is that the film's visual style is very comic book meets pulpy noir, yet it is also simultaneously its own animal. We'd be here all day if I dissected every frame of this film and its impact on the story. So I'll break down the opening credit sequence all the way up to our introduction to Jack before delving into individual locations, vehicles, and costumes. At first glance, it appears to us as a visually simple way to credit the stars and key crew members via the bat symbol. However, that symbol is not revealed until the end of the sequence. The best opening credit sequences are the ones that set the tone perfectly, and in the case of Batman, the opening is parallel to the film. Throughout the whole film, we see our side characters slowly unravel the mysteries of Batman, the same way we, the audience, have the bat symbol revealed to us. The movie ends on a shot of Batman perched on a ledge, with the signal shining in the distance, showing that this movie started with the symbol and ends with the symbol. Now, I don't know if he was specifically talking about the film and Bruce's character as a whole, or the opening credits sequence, or both. But here's what Tim Burton had to say on the director commentary.
Exploring the dark, recesses of the mind, and then sort of, just being inside something, kind of like being inside somebody's head, and then kind of coming out to reveal what it is.
Moving on from the opening, we dive right into Gotham City, which is littered with German expressionist architecture that was most popular in the 1920s, which immediately makes it feel oppressive. We see the Gothamites sporting the popular dress styles from the 40s, which are immediately contrasted by the Prince music heard on a nearby radio, which is also modern. The alley shots are much more notable with the inclusion of constant smoke, making the city feel like a living, breathing nightmare. We can also see from the way they dress that these muggers are living in poverty and feel the need to mug people for survival. Or maybe they just don't value personal hygiene or use cosmetics, which would actually save them from Smilex later, assuming they didn't get locked up. Also, a fun little detail I didn't notice until recently is that one of the thugs has a shark tooth earring. After the mugging, we can see a red glow of lights coming out of these windows here. The color red can of course be used as a sign of imminent danger, which is what the muggers are about to face. Speaking of said danger, I must say that there are no words that can describe the brilliance of this shot perfectly. After the encounter, we finally see a burst of color and light at City Hall, making it feel like a place of solitude and a place where justice is upheld. When we transition to Jack and Alicia watching the City Hall broadcast, the warm lighting remains, but the bright pastel colors are absent, almost as if to communicate that despite no current danger or darkness, we, the audience, are in the company of indecent people. Alright, you get the point. So now I'm just going to start talking about some of the locations from the film. Starting with Axis Chemicals, which is of course an adaptation of Ace Chemicals from the comics. The name was derived from a hybrid of Apex Chemical Corporation from Batman's first appearance and Ace Chemicals from issue 168 in Detective Comics. They had to change the name due to some sort of copyright issue, but I like the irony of the name because Joker uses the plant as a hideout to manufacture Smilex. The irony of the name comes from the fact that it is being used for evil, and we commonly look at the most evil events in history and note that a good bit were carried out by the Axis powers during World War II. The place looks dirty, and several areas inside are corroded, kind of like the dirty cops who tried to execute Jack at the Sting. The plant has always been a shining example of evil, because before we, the audience, even physically see Axis, we are told it was one of Grissom's front companies. However, after falling into a vat of chemicals there, Jack kills Grissom and takes everything from him, including the place where Joker was born. Axis Chemicals essentially becomes his Batcave. The beauty of Axis is that there is none, both visually and narratively. From the outside, it just looks like a standard, dirty, and toxic chemical plant, whilst everyone associated with it is equally as gross. The Monarch Theater is one of two locations that is heavily inspired by the Japanese architect Shin Takamatsu. Takamatsu's style of architecture is very mechanical and avant-garde, which translates into the Monarch Theater. From what little we see of it, it is dark and dreary, in the least friendly-looking area of Gotham Square. The mechanical-looking cinema almost acts as an ironic symbol of the humanity and emotion Bruce Wayne would lose the night his parents were shot and killed. The second location, inspired by Takamatsu, is the Flugelheim Museum, which is most notable for being the scene where Joker vandalizes nearly all of the paintings while dancing to Prince. The name is a clear parallel to the Guggenheim Museum in New York. While a nicely designed set, the museum isn't too noteworthy of a location outside of that singular scene, And I know the same could be said about the Monarch Cathedral, but that's the origin of Batman. So it is more important to dissect. The Gotham Cathedral is perhaps the most breathtaking location in the film. It is said to be 800 feet tall in the universe, and the miniatures in the set really make it look imposing. Here's what Nigel Blake, one of the miniature effects designers, had to say about it.
I did the miniature along with a team of other people. The Gotham Cathedral Tower at where the climax of it all took place. And that huge big balcony with all the gargoyles on it, we modelled that. And I went over to Pinewood to photograph the full-size set as reference so that we got all the gargoyles the same shape and everything on the miniature. And I can't remember, I think that was on A stage, and we went into the stage and we went onto the back of the rostrum for this set. And past the bell where it was hanging, and there was these big flagstones all on the floor. And Brian Bishop and his son Doug had painted all this huge big night scene of the city that was on a big cyclorama around the back of the stage. I built a staircase in that where you look down it. And
I like how the cathedral's presence is mirrored in the essence of Batman. That is to say that it is something gothic and larger than life, which is how Bruce wants to appear. The climax taking place here is perfect, as Batman and the Joker are two people who need to atone for their sins. The bell is a great omen, as bells usually are, but it's fitting especially in this case, since Joker falls to his death the same way the bell falls. Before Batman had to ascend up the cathedral, he descended when the Batwing was shot down, which leads me into talking about the vehicles in this film. Smooth segue, I know. What I want to first note is that Tim Burton is either slightly or fully responsible for the official name of the plane being the Batwing. He didn't want to just call it the Batplane like it was in the comics at the time, as it is a very bland and pizzazzless name. The plane is an armored, militarized jet with two GE M134 miniguns mounted on the sides, as well as there being 4 missile launchers near the front. It also has a mouth winch / grapple / guillotine, and it was also originally written to have had a laser. Okay, come on. If we're gonna have to watch Batman kill people, at least let us witness him incinerating goons. Now, all of this description is just a really roundabout way of saying it's really cool and comic booky, and is also perfectly shaped like the bat symbol. Unfortunately, as sick as it is, it couldn't survive Joker's stupidly long 38 special. The Batmobile in this film is an incredible accomplishment, as it started as a trend that nearly every Batmobile would follow, in which they would find a way to build the car to do the stunts. The Burn car is a 2 Impala chassis welded together with Mickey Thompson racing tires, a Chevy V8 engine, a Rolls-Royce jet engine, and turbine blades, and nosepiece from a Harrier fighter jet. All of that is encased in fiberglass, making it filmable. And of course it's equipped with Browning machine guns and a winch. All of Batman vehicles and gadgets are very sleek and comic booky while still looking real enough. I like how the yellow lights on the car mirror the Batsuit. A lot of black with a little yellow. Speaking of the Batsuit, here it is before your eyes. I like how imposing the cape is, and the symbol is fine. I know there were some copyright issues with it, but the extra feet they put on aren't the greatest. The Bat boots are Nike, which is funny, because there's something ironic about a film that has several themes of consumerism, 80s excess, and greed having its title character rocking some Nike Air Trainers. Meanwhile, every Joker outfit is perfection. Pure visual music. And speaking of music, the music of Batman 89. I was going to dedicate this section to the sound design overall, but I quickly realized I wasn't interested in that. However, the sound design of the film is great. So before getting into music, I do want to say that if you buy Batman on physical media, avoid the 30th anniversary 4K release. Because they did a Dolby Atmos remix which changes a lot of sound effects and they don't match up at all with the tonality of the scenes. They also just feel too modern for this film. Now, let's talk about what is easily the best aspect of this film, the score. Even people who hate the Burton films acknowledge this to be a great score, and even the definitive Batman score. The now legendary Danny Elfman was chosen as the composer, having previously worked with Tim Burton on Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice. However, producer John Peters was skeptical of hiring him. Both Peters and Peter Gruber had initially wanted Elfman to co-write the score with Prince.
John, he's very pop-oriented. His original idea was that Michael Jackson would write the Batman theme, George Michael would write the Love theme, and Prince would write the Joker theme. And then it came down to, like, you know what, we want you to co-write a score with Prince. And I had to say, I love Prince, I respect Prince, but I'm not co-writing a score with them. Because I don't want to do a pop score. I already know what this score is. And no disrespect to Prince, but I was going to be a glorified orchestrator, and I had to temporarily leave the film.
I never knew.
I spent the most miserable month of my life, honestly. I felt like I just threw my career away.
But looking back, that was probably the best decision you ever made for that,
I
right?
was, but there are moments like this, there's no answers. There's two doors, and you have to walk through one of them. About a month later, I got a call from Tim saying, would you come back to London? Let's talk.
Yeah, thank God that didn't happen, because, as the man said himself, he already knew what the score was. Now, just to forewarn you, I'm not well versed in music. I can't read notes, I don't play instruments, and I barely listen to anything that isn't classical music or film scores. So there won't be an in-depth breakdown of the structure, and if that's what you're looking for, I suggest you check out these videos instead. That being said, I've done some research on certain tracks so I can better highlight their brilliance, starting with the main theme. We hear a low but imposing establishing sound, which is a simple arrangement of brass instruments going up and down. And when it repeats, it sounds like there are some strings and or an organ being used. I'm not sure why, but that little bit makes me think of a rocking chair, even though the creaks don't sound like that at all. And from that, I'm able to visualize Bruce sitting in Wayne Manor to himself. And when the score peaks with this loud sound, it's Bruce singing the bat symbol. Now, you know the rest, but I'm not trying to get a copyright claim or strike, and I have a lot more to get through. So the last thing I'll say is an opinion I share with Doug Walker. When the theme speeds up, I imagine Batman brooding and punching. The next track I want to talk about is Roof Fight, but specifically one singular part of it, which is that odd sound made when Batman reveals himself. It sounds ethereal and otherworldly, which is perfect because Bruce is trying to make himself appear like a dark creature of the night, or the night itself. Perhaps the most melancholic and subdued track in the film, Flowers, occurs in the film when Vicky follows Bruce and discovers him laying flowers on the pavement where his parents were slain. From the start to the middle, it's a much sadder and more memorial track and features a brief, somber version of the theme, hinting at the tragedy that turned him into Batman. But when it nears the end and has that loud dun dun, it feels as if Bruce's emotions changed from sadness to anger over what was taken from him. This track is followed by the more overt, in-your-face track, Clown Attack, which should technically be called Mime Attack given the context. This track is mainly constructed with staccato on piano, which has this very quick and rapid movement that almost syncs with the mimes performing their little distraction. When the Joker stabs a mobster in the throat with a pen in broad daylight, the building of the piano stops and the track crescendos with the abrasive and sudden brass. Let's just say there's a reason this part was used for villain reveals in LEGO Batman 2. Now, on to what might just be the best track in the film, Descent into Mystery, which encapsulates everything great about Batman. Words cannot begin to describe the power of this track, but I'll do my best. Before I do so, I recommend you save this video, pause it here, and go listen to the entire track so you can better understand what I mean. You won't regret it. It has this majestic startup that goes do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. And what comes to mind upon hearing this is that of horses galloping, which is ironic considering it's Sam Hain's original script. Bruce did ride a horse, and a line about it kind of made it into the film. Anyways, the choir comes in and gives this gothic forest backdrop a nice compliment. Then we hear notes of the main theme as the Batmobile afterburner speeds. And finally, as it looks like Batman is about to drive headfirst into a structure, a cave opens up and the music crescendos. The next track, while still one of my favorites, hence why I'm highlighting it, it is more complimentary than the rest, as I think the scene it accompanies is still great without it, but it makes the scene just a little bit better. The track in question is Childhood Memories, which begins when Bruce is in the cave reflecting on what Jack said to him about dancing with the devil by the pale moonlight, and puts together that Jack was the one who killed his folks, which is then shown, and the music acts as a build-up to what's about to happen because we haven't seen it yet. Like Descent into Mystery, a choir features heavily in this, but this time it's more melancholic and even ominous, and it works well with the low-angle slow-motion shots, as if this soundtrack is what's playing in Bruce's head as he forces himself to remember. The score cuts out right before the shooting starts, making the shots seem more intense to the audience, so overall the track is still a great one. Now on to Up the Cathedral, which utilizes an electric organ, the perfect instrument for a religious place, especially considering that, as I've stated many times, this film blends the old and the new, with fairly recent electronic instrument technology playing into that pretty well. The startup with the horns syncs with Vicky's rapid footsteps, dashing towards the crashed Batwing, and then once she makes it to the cockpit, the Joker is revealed to have her at gunpoint. It switches to shifting augmented chords, which sounds perfectly untoward.
Darling.
When Joker looks up the cathedral and its imposing height is revealed, it gets its own reveal motif.
Better make it 10.
Okay, 10 minutes.
I love hearing that organ brought in afterwards, and then the Batman theme as Batman rises from the wreckage. Then we get the bulk of the track that repeats in a repetitive manner, almost as if to mimic how long it takes for the three to make it up the cathedral. The last notable piece of this track is when Joker uses the acid flower to drop the bell, which is accompanied by this intense music. Elfman said this track was inspired by Bernard Herrmann's score for Mysterious Island. I haven't seen that film, so I can't comment further. The last track I want to talk about is Waltz to the Death, which was teased in the Joker's reveal scene, but only briefly. It's featured in the final big action scene where Batman dispatches of all Joker's goons while he slow dances with Vicky Vale. This track is basically the Joker's theme, and it fits him perfectly as it sounds like a waltz written for a circus. I honestly don't have much to say beyond the fact that it's a great track like the rest, but it's not as complex or essential as the others. Well, I guess that's it for the music portion of this yes, the iconic Prince soundtrack. I'm going to be brief when talking about this soundtrack because it's not as monumental to the film as the score, but it's still relevant. Only 6 out of the 9 songs on the album are featured in the film. So those will be the ones I'm talking about. Starting with The Future. In this track, Prince utilizes the dialogue between Batman and the thug he holds above the alley that ends with him saying, "I'm Batman." Afterward, the main hook of the song is heard, which is simply, "I've seen the future and it will be. I've seen the future and it works. If there's life after, you will see. So I can't go like a jerk." It's clearly talking about Batman acting as Gotham's hero, taking down crime in the context of the film, although it could also be seen as the Joker's rise to power, especially since the dialogue where Joker tells Eckhart to think about the future is played at the end. Where the song features in the film is more low-key than the others, as we simply hear it on a radio when we first see establishing shots of Gotham for a mere few seconds. The next song is Vicky Waiting, which was originally written as Anna Waiting, because it was said to be about Prince being in love with the 17-year-old Anna Garcia, but having to wait until she turned 18 to be together. The song was reworked to the film as Vicky Waiting, but the irony is that the actress who plays Vicky in the film, Kim Basinger, started dating Prince when he was tasked with creating the soundtrack. In the film, the context can be seen from the perspective of Bruce with lyrics like, "Talk of children still frightens me. Is my character enough to be?" There's also a mention in the song about the narrator telling a crude joke that doesn't land, which falls in line perfectly with Bruce's inability to blend in fake normalcy. I should also take a moment to mention that Prince in the music videos for Bat Dance and Party Man dresses in a hybrid of Batman and Joker, with the sides being split in half, therefore also alluding to Two-Face. The reason I mention this is that I feel as though Prince relates to different aspects of both characters, making him the perfect choice to write the album. The song is featured in the background of the Wayne benefit scene where Vicky and Bruce first interact. The next song, Electric Chair, is played during the benefit, but it's more deliberately timed than the previous two, as it's played right before Gordon is tipped off about Axis Chemicals, where Jack will become Joker. This fits because the lyrics to the chorus can be seen from Jack's perspective. The subtext to be gathered here is fully obvious, so I'm going to move on to the big one. Party Man is easily the most memorable song from the film, as it plays on the goon Lawrence's boombox during the vandalizing sequence. The song talks of a wild party man who believes in a philosophy absent of rules to completely live on his own terms. So the song being featured in the scene where the Joker and his goons vandalize a lot of priceless art is fitting. Prince said the lyrics were influenced by Jack Nicholson after he met him, Nicholson being known for his wild Hollywood parties. The next song is another that is more prominently featured, Trust. This song is used in an ironic context because the core message of the song is obviously trust, which the Gothamites are blindly giving to a man who has caused multiple deaths by way of Smilex, and giving a poor lie saying that it was under Grissom, when it was already all but confirmed that Grissom was dead, all because he's giving away free money. It is played over that same scene and demonstrates how willing people's fears, morality, and rational/intellectual thought magically disappear when money is involved. The actual lyrics relate to the theme of trust to relationships, so it could also be correlated with Bruce and Vicky, the former having a hard time trusting her with his secrets. Well, that concludes the songs in the movie's acts, but there is one more Prince song included during the credits, following the theme reprise. Scandalous is a song about Prince and Kim Basinger having sex. While the other songs contain innuendos, this song is most overtly sexual. The inclusion of it in the credits could be seen as a victory day vow for Bruce after a night of fighting crime and engaging in passionate lovemaking. That would be scandalous if anyone else knew about it. Now that's it for the music section of the video, and now I'll be talking about perhaps the most important thing. The characters of Batman 89. To make things simple, I'll look at only a few significant characters, citing their impact on the story, the actor's performance, and some critiques along the way. Let's start with the man, the myth, the legend, the Batman/Bruce Wayne. The brilliance of Bruce's character is that he's as much of a mystery to the audience as he is to the people of Gotham. Sure, we know his name, the fame and fortune that comes with it, and that his parents were killed by the Joker. But what is his purpose as Batman before discovering this? What are his motives? To me, none of this is a flaw but a strength, as the only sound judgment we can make is from Keaton's performance. Thank God Keaton was cast, because without a compelling performance, the ambiguity wouldn't work. He's the type of guy who could tell his girlfriend to shut up and not even a minute later she's comforting him. He's the type of guy who can knock her out and snag the photos from her bra, and we don't see it as creepy. Well, not as creepy as if it were someone else. He's the type of guy who can murder countless criminals and we still see him as a hero. And yes, let's address this now. Batman does kill in this film. However, it's a lot more nuanced than people make it out to be, as he only kills after he discovers Jack Napier killed his parents, so by proxy all of his goons need to die too. Honestly, I think it's more of a symptom of ignoring his emotions for too long and not knowing what to do with them upon discovering that the man terrorizing Gotham, arguably because of him, who's also trying to kidnap his girl, and didn't in the apartment scene for some reason, killed his parents and then was going to kill him. He has probably been searching for their killer for years, and to discover all of that pretty late is enough to make anyone go mad. I don't have a problem with Batman killing in this film, since now we have more accurate adaptations, and even if we didn't, I'll be honest, I like the exploration that can be done with a Batman who kills. I know that's an unpopular view, but I feel like the Burton films subtly let you know Bruce sees how wrong he was, and that he needs to change. However, there is one major problem I have with this Batman. And in case I haven't made it clear already, it isn't that he's a murderer, but rather, he's not a good hero. He's not a good hero because he doesn't save that many people. In almost every scene where there is an imminent threat, Bruce only acts after major damage has already been done. In the roof fight, he apprehends the muggers after they've already snatched the wallet and knocked the family's father out cold. Now, this is more permissible than some of my upcoming examples, because Batman at this point is trying to maintain his ambiguity, so he fights them on the roof rather than on the ground. For the most part, the Axis chemical encounter isn't bad, as dropping Jack was an accident, and I don't think Bruce could have prevented Eckhart's death without Bob killing Gordon. At the museum, Bruce only arrives after everyone inside has been killed by the gas, and he just barely makes it in time to save Vicky from getting her face burnt off. Finally, at the Bicentennial Parade, Batman arrives only after hundreds and likely thousands have been killed by Smilex gas. This is verifiable too, because Joker only releases the gas once he sees Batman. And one might argue he didn't know the balloons were filled with the gas, but come on. You're telling me Vicky Vale discovered it before the world's greatest detective? And even then, he takes a sweet time doing it. To me, if you're going to have your protagonist presented as a hero, and said hero murders people, you at least have to show him having an innate value for innocent human life, and the urgency to save it. Now, moving on from that fatal flaw, I would talk about his relationships, but since he doesn't have many, I'll go over that in their own character sections, starting with Alfred Pennyworth. Alfred is played with brilliance by Michael Gough, with a perfect combination of servility and care, coupled with a bold father-like presence. Now, some of you might say Alfred doesn't have any major impact on the story, but you're wrong, because he let Vicky Vale into the Batcave. In all seriousness, Batman could not do what he does without Alfred, and I don't just mean that in a tactical sense, but also in an emotional sense. And this is one of the Batman films where it's less prominent, but it's still there. This small interaction always sticks out like a sore thumb in my mind.
What's on your mind, Alfred?
I have no wish to fill my few remaining years grieving for the loss of old friends or their sons.
Another great interaction is when Alfred is telling Bruce how great Vicky is, And while he's stubborn at first, he has to concede because he knows it's right. Now, like Batman, we barely see Alfred in the film, which makes sense. But when he is there, he does have something of value to contribute. Now on to Miss Victoria Vale, our love interest. And I've got to say, while she's not the best, she's far superior to the 2000 superhero love interest. Now, while I do share the sentiment that she feels like a real human being, and because she's stuck between two freaks, she seems odd and out of place. That's the point. She's a very gentle soul, as we see from the first time we meet her, when everyone else makes fun of Knox for pursuing the story on the Batman. She not only believes him, but wants to help him find something tangible. Now, while she is more normal and human than our two central characters, she does have an odd freakishness to her. Now, of course, it's not Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman level, but there's a quick scene pack where I detect that. And here it is.
I like bats. Bats. Hey, it's okay. You can tell me.
Okay.
What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's real hot.
Firing, I guess. Couldn't keep it straight up here. He was the kind of guy who couldn't hear the train.
Tell me if I'm crazy. I've loved you since I met you.
Such beautiful things. Oh, and you're so powerful. And purple. Oh.
She also stalks Bruce just because he lied about leaving town, but as I said previously, she's a kind, warm, and gentle soul. Even in that instance, it was out of concern just as much as it was about discovery. Sure, as a lot of people point out, she screams quite a bit, but first off, Kim Basinger has a great scream, and second off, when she screams, it's justified. We don't know that much about her either, but by the little we do know, she seems like a good person. I don't know how to put into words how good a job Kim Basinger does with the role, so all I'll say is watch or rewatch the film for yourselves and pay attention to her performance. I'll give Alexander Knox quick praise here, as he's enjoyable as an original character for the film. I like him and Vicky's banner. Also, it's hilarious that in an attempt to be a hero in the final act, he tries hitting the Joker's goons with a baseball bat as they're ascending with the balloon. Now on to the character at the forefront, the Joker. Let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. Yes, Jack Nicholson's performance is an all-timer, and yes, Joker has more backstory and character than Batman. But like Batman, I have one major problem with this iteration of the character, and it's probably my biggest issue with the whole film. This Joker isn't obsessed with Batman. I think this Joker genuinely sees Batman as a nuisance, a thorn he has to remove from his side. A lot of people critique the fact that this Joker doesn't really have a plan or an end goal, but the random chaos aspect is definitive Joker to me. What is not definitive Joker is not having a complex fascination with the Dark Knight. That's why the comic book Joker doesn't have one end goal, because whatever scheme he's got cooked up is meant to be for the one person he wants to challenge or impress or break. In the comics, Batman also has this almost unconscious obsession with the Joker in his own right. And while I do prefer that, I think taking that away for the film works fine. But on the Joker's end, it's not justifiable. I understand why Joker killing the Waynes works for the film, because then it creates this duality of two people that have created each other, which is an interesting plot point. But the problem is that Jack doesn't even know why Batman wants to kill him until he's mere moments away from death. What I'm saying is Batman wanting to kill the Joker to avenge his parents works for me, but Joker wanting to kill Batman to get him out of the way does not. Imagine a version of this film where Batman stays the same as in the version we got, but Joker has an infatuation with Batman. How much more fascinating would that be? His obsession being the man who wants to see him dead more than anything. To me, that also makes more sense because Joker should be grateful Batman dropped him into the chemical vat, as it finally allowed him to be himself fully. I wish I remember what video essay on the film I heard this from, but if I find it, I'll put it in the pinned comment. Anyway, the suggestion was that Batman would kill the Joker without ever telling him why. Jack would beg Batman to tell him why he hates him, because he owes him that much. He doesn't want his last laugh to be meaningless. To me, all of this is much richer than what we got. But you know, what we got wasn't terrible either. I mean, stripping away what we know the comics to be, or what we could have gotten on its own, the story of a gangster with bleached skin becoming a homicidal artist who tries to sleep with the journalist the hero is with, whose parents were killed by him, is a pretty good 80s action movie plot in its own right. Is it a mess? Yes. Is it as good as the comics? No. Could it be better? Yes. Could it be worse? Of course it could. That's the thing about this film overall. It's only subpar when compared to how we know Batman today. But we wouldn't have Batman as we know him today in the mainstream if not for this film. If you just review it as a film and strip away all that, I might even call it a great one. Considering the rules of movies is show don't tell, and this film, as I've gone over, has some of the best visual storytelling I've ever seen, and for that alone, ignoring its cultural impact is something to be celebrated. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video essay. I hope it broadened your perspective on this film and convinced you that it still matters. If it did, then I've done my part. With all that being said, take it easy. God loves you. And have a good day.
Favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
Get out!